Who the hell are you? Naruto asked as he gave up on trying to stop the bigger boy from touching the soul and instead tried to distract him, turning away with his finger still stuck in the soul. Frankenstein seemed to get slightly confused face to get his slightly confused face for a moment before he seemed to realize something and slapped himself in the forehead as he turned to face Naruto completely, his attention now entirely on Naruto as opposed to the soul orb. Of course, where are my manners? My name is Victor Frankenstein. At least, that's my name. That's the name I was given. Then again, I guess all names are given by someone. What was I talking about? Alright, I remember now. I was named after my great 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 grandfather, who was some important guy back in the day or something. Though I am also known as a grave robber on account of me recycling bodies. I mean, burying them in the ground is such a waste. You know, I once found a perfect good stomach and a spinal cord in the same grave, and they say I'm mad, the boy said, throwing his head back and letting out a mad laugh. As he heard Victor's introduction, Naruto's eyes started twitching behind his mask, and an action he expected would be happening a lot over the next few hours. It didn't help that as he was walking, Victor had offered him a hand to shake. Only the only the hand wasn't actually his, but instead was a part of a several arms. Severed. It was part of a severed arm he had picked up. Though he did wish they were still standing in a burning village surrounded by dead bodies, but the odd boy didn't seem to care at all. They spent the next hour talking as Victor sorted the different body parts in piles, going off on random tangents every now and then in the middle of talking about something else, with Naruto occasionally grabbing one of the souls of the fallen shinobi when the boy's back was turned, shoving it in his mouth quickly and ignoring the surge of energy he received and the number of flashing images, taking note that he would have to go through the mindscape later with Yu's help to look through whatever scraps of memory he had absorbed to see whether anything was useful. It turned out that Victor was one of the last members of a clan who were all in hiding and had been for decades. They had apparently been very well known before the hidden villages were formed. The clan had slowly started to die out after the formation of the shinobi villages. Though that was mainly because no one had wanted them to join their village as they were being formed. While rare there had been several clans that either chose not to join any villages or simply weren't allowed. The majority of the clans that had died out many years ago or dropped off the map altogether. Clans such as these had the name rogue clans. The Frankenstein clan was a clan of medical ninjas of a sort. Victor's ancestor discovered a way to separate his chakra networks from his physical body while still being able to use both. This led to what had been called the living corpse jutsu, allowing them to become, a lack of better word, zombie. As long as they had chakra, they would live with almost any damage through. Though if they ran out before things were replaced, they would die. There were more there was more to it than that, and other related jutsu that had developed by the clan. That had been developed by the clan, but Naruto didn't ask for more details. He didn't really want to. The clan was technically speaking, a clan of immortals. They grew to maturity, but when they did, so did they. So they stopped getting older when they reached their peak. They did start to rot though, the older they got, which meant that as long as they had constantly had chakra and regularly replaced their organs, they would live indefinitely. They also had no sense of pain, which was no doubt adapted by them to make the process of replacing their body parts easier. A full back of their bloodline, though a full back of their bloodline though were that they couldn't heal naturally. However, their inability to heal and the tendency to rot was the clan. Oh, sorry. However, their inability to heal and their tendency to rot counteracted by the ability to replace their old damaged body parts with what they recycled from the dead, which was the main reason they were not welcome when the hidden villages were being formed. During the time of the clan wars, the Frankenstein clan became infamous for their medical skills and questionable methods. However, after the hidden villages had been formed, the clan wars ended. They had lost the recyclable material. They were forced to start grave robbing for body parts, which only made others more uncomfortable around them. Things had gotten better during the Great Shinobi Wars, but each time there was peace, their numbers had continued to lower to the point of near extinction. Naruto found himself feeling sorry for the older boy. Almost his whole clan was either dead or in hiding, and they were forced to scavenge for dead just to survive. Though it wasn't just the Frankenstein clan that had been forced to become a rogue clan. Naruto remembered a book a book that he once read that had mentioned several. There were also several he knew that could be considered, if not worse, on equal footing as the Frankenstein clan when it came to unsavory jutsu. Then, then there were the shinobi from before. Naruto had heard his father talk about the newly formed hidden sound village, though not much was known. It turned out to be a self-proclaimed Otokage had taken an interest in the Frankenstein clan and their inherited abilities, and had been sending teams to try and invite Victor to the village. Apparently, they were all little more than cannon fodder and scrap parts, as Victor liked to call them. It turned out that the string trap he had set up was actually not impressive, as impressive as it looked. Though Shinobi were just incompetent. All they had to do was charge the kunai with chakra, and they would have been able to cut through the wires with ease. If they had any brains, they wouldn't have walked into the trap in the first place, which apparently had taken the boy hours to set up after he had left a trail for them to follow to the village. Naruto wasn't sure how he felt about Victor using the loggers and their families as a distraction, but at least he had stopped them from being killed. A few days out of Konoha, and already he was finding out that the world was much harsher than he had ever imagined while living in the sheltered Uzumaki compound. By the time Victor had finished talking, Naruto about himself. The boy gave Naruto the feeling that he was lonely, which was why he was being so open, so he could continue talking to Naruto. All that, all the piles of bodies that had been sealed in a separate school, leaving nothing but the four remaining souls floating in the air. Most of the houses had been mostly burnt down at this point, though the flames were still going strong from the collapsed timbers. Naruto didn't miss the fact that the four remaining souls hadn't gotten around to eating yet and looked smaller than before and were starting to fade slightly. So I told you all the dirty details. Now, what's your story? Victor asked, looking intently as Naruto, now no longer distracted by the macabre activities. Licking his lips, Naruto paused for a moment to think about what exactly to say. He couldn't tell him the truth. The main reason he had left his home in the first place was so people didn't find out who he was and what he could do. Thinking quickly, Naruto gave a small shrug before he walked over to the nearest soul on 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 the few remaining ones that he hadn't been able to subtle consume to subtle what is that to secretly consume. When Victor's back was turned, something that uh, appeared to have been done in vain, as there were still souls in present, as he was still hungry. I gained the newly unlocked bloodline, first in my family to ever possess it. Didn't like the idea of being turned into a breeding stock or a weapon, so I did a runner. Was Naruto's abrupt answer to the boy, as he chose to rely on half-truths. The soul was cold to the touch and about the size of an apple now, and he had shrunk. Now that he had shrunk, really? So what's your thing? I met this guy from one clan once that he could turn his entire body into water, which was really cool, Victor said enthusiastically as he continued to watch Naruto intently, looking for any indications of what his mysterious bloodline could be. Turning back around to face Victor, with the soul still in his hand, Naruto smirked behind his mask and masked at the surprised look on his face before lifting the soul to his mouth. This was the reason he made it. He made it so his mask was in two parts. He hesitated for a second, suddenly unsure if this was the right thing to do, to reveal his ability in the form of a bloodline so blatantly. But then the growling of his stomach decided it for him. Opening his mouth impossibly wide, Naruto put the soul into his mouth at once and swallowed it whole. Once again, he felt the adrenaline rush, like nothing he had ever felt before, exploding inside his body, filling him with energy and washing away all the aches of pain after having jumped for so long. He felt his own chakra more than double, straining slightly at, at his core before it grew to accommodate the added chakra. Eating this soul was just as intense of the other ones he had eaten. It was so different to the animal souls he had eaten before. Rolling his head on his shoulders and making the joints click loudly, Naruto turned back to Victor with a smirk hidden behind his mask. Victor gave a low whistle, scratching his head with a small frown on his lips, as he seemed to be trying to understand what had just happened. However, when Naruto moved on to the next soul, making it visible as he grabbed it with his chakra, he seemed to slowly start to understand what he looked at and at the bloodstains on the ground after the soul. Are you sure? Are those what I think they are? Shrugging as another of the remaining souls, Naruto rubbed his jaw slightly to ease the ache that was starting to become speaking that was starting to before speaking as he grabbed the next. Depends. If they are the souls of the shinobi you just killed, then yes, I cannot only see them after something dies, but my chakra allows me to touch them, and when I eat one, the chakra is added to my own. My body needs a mixed diet of both souls and normal food to survive, which is why Naruto began outline a very rough summary of his bloodline. It was only fair after all. Victor had told him his, and so Naruto would reveal his own. Of course, he wouldn't reveal everything. After all, it is easier to get away with half-truths than lies. You're so skinny. Let me guess, you didn't start seeing souls until you unlocked your chakra, meaning you were starving. Naruto had to give it to the boy. He was smarter than he looked, and acted and sounded. He also seemed to be very indifferent to the fact that Naruto was eating human souls, though Victor seemed to understand his silence and gave a shrug. Dude, I am a freaking grave robbing nut job. Nut job. You eating souls is not a big deal. Then I doubt that, though I doubt you would have been used as a breeding stock, wherever you came from, because a skill like this is more suited to be a rogue to be more suited to a rogue clan. You, my friend, as far as most people are concerned, are a little more than a parasite that needs to feed off of other people to survive. That's how most of us end up becoming rogue clans after the end of the clan wars, just another outcast, or as the proper shinobi and the villagers call us, lone nin. The the way he said lone nin, Naruto knew that Victor didn't think much of the title. Naruto knew. Sorry about that. It's just that my table is taking the piss. Naruto had never even thought about it like that, but Victor was right. Would his family have thought the same? Thought less of him because he needed to eat souls to survive before Naruto would have said anything? Yes, they would have accepted him without a doubt. Now though, after having found out that they had lied and misled him for his entire life, he was not sure. But one thing he knew was that for the rest of the hidden leaf, would not have accepted his existence. Suddenly, his plan to run away to the whirlpool sounded better, while at the same time not as well thought as Naruto had first thought. Where would he find souls? Sure, animals kept him fed, but they didn't make him strong. He needs to be strong, for when people eventually find out what he really was, when they would come for him. After all, was that not his original plan? To get strong, so he would never feel scared and weak again. His hands hesitated as he reached for the last soul, suddenly unsure with what he was going to do. Until Victor spoke up. So you're heading to the water country too? His question was quite simple, but all the same, it threw Naruto for a loop. Blinking, Naruto turned away from the soul back to Victor, only to deadpan when he saw the boy wasn't even paying attention. Instead, he was just picking his nose. What? The land of water? You going? With the hidden mist civil war going on, it's a perfect place for outcasts like us. More people killing each other than people ever bother to count, and there will always work. And there is always work in war for people like us with special skills. So you going? Victor asked again, with a grin on his face this time. Naruto turned back to the last soul as he held in his hand for a moment before giving a silent nod, swallowing it. Yes, I guess so. Great. We can go together. By the way, what's with that stupid mask? It's to hide my identity. Okay. So are you any good at digging? It was Naruto and Victor. It was as Naruto and Victor were shoveling the last bits of dirt upon the upon the mutilated the remains of the Sound Shinobi, and Naruto felt something. It was like a strange itch on the back of his neck. Turning around, looking around, Naruto's eyes scanned the dark trees that surrounded him, looking for anything that could have caused the feeling. As he looked around, his enhanced sight allowed him to see through the night like it was day. But this enhancement did not allow him to look through trees. Deciding to try something else out, Naruto drew on his sensing abilities. Although he did not that day, he did not know that they would be as good as Mito's or Mito's sensory. Although he knew that they wouldn't be as good as Mito's sensory abilities, Naruto had a unique trait for them. Searching the surrounding area with his abilities, he soon found the source of his discomfort. Sitting roughly 20 meters back from the tree line was a figure, another person. Naruto's, the person stuck out from the rest of the surroundings. His figure blazing like light compared to the rest of the dull and greyish landscape. The reason the man stuck out so much despite trying to suppress his chakra was due to the nature of Naruto's sensory abilities. He did not sense the chakra like a normal sensory shinobi. Instead, he sensed the life force. Unfortunately though, something about his stance must have alerted the observer that he had been spotted, as without any warning, they started leaping through the trees to the direction of Naruto and Victor. It looked like the shinobi barely. It took the shinobi barely a few seconds to cross the distance and leap at Victor, a kunai in his hands as he shot towards the unwary prey. It all happened so fast for Naruto. 1 second, he had spotted an enemy shinobi hiding in the background, observing the two of them. The next second, he would see a blur like a figure bursting out of the surrounding trees and heading for his newly made friend Victor. It was as if as this was all happening that Naruto's adrenaline surged. It was as this was all happening that Naruto's adrenaline surged. His recently increased reserves of chakra roaring to life. Naruto unconsciously started drawing on the chakra of the souls he had consumed, the energy flooding his limbs as Naruto lunged forward, heading to intercept the enemy shinobi. As he closed in on Victor, who only now. As he moved, Naruto felt every sense flaring. The scent of blood and smoke in the air was stifling. The sound of his feet crunching against the forest floor. As he moved, his eyes caught a glint of the metal on the floor. It was an axe, no doubt dropped by one of the loggers when they were attacked. Taking a few steps forward, his body thrumming with energy, Naruto leant down and scooped up the axe from the floor. I think he meant bent. Abundant chakra running through his body, now pouring from his hands in a bluish grey wave as Naruto unconsciously channeled it into the axe he wielded. Another step, and he had somehow caught up with the enemy, the person who he was once been a blur, coming into focus as Naruto approached, his axe already swinging through the air, even as the now revealed man lunged forward with his kunai. The metal forehead of the man wore a glint of a firelight as he revealed the symbol of the sound village. Crunch. With a dull crunching sound, Naruto's axe made contact with the shinobi, the blade of the axe connecting where the man's neck met his shoulder. The chakra-infused blade cutting through the muscles and skins and the bone like a hot blade through butter. Naruto's enhanced sight made him see how the flesh seemed to grey and shrivel as the axe made contact. Not that it really mattered, as the blade continued its path and sliced through the man's body, bursting it out. The chakra-infused blade cutting through the... Okay, wait, I already read that, sorry. Slashed through the man's body, bursting it out on the other side of the shower of gore. In a shower of gore. Falling onto his knees, Naruto started panting. It had been barely 5 seconds since Naruto had identified the enemy, but somehow he felt as if it had been an hour. His heart thundered in his chest as if his entire body began shaking. Looking up, he could see a vacant look in the gaze of the man that he had just killed. Holding back a wrench, Naruto could already see the orb of light that had represented his soul beginning to rise into the air above the man's slain body. Ah, that's sweet. You brought the dessert. Looking up as he heard the voice of Naruto, as he heard the voice, Naruto saw Victor stood above him, the boy already twirling in the scalpels in his hands. As he looked down at the dead body in front of him, and an assessing look on his face as he inspected the dead shinobi's remains. Did you have to make such a mess though? I mean, you probably ruined his heart and lungs. You, my friend, need some practice. Looking at Victor, a disbelieving expression on his masked face, Naruto couldn't help but lose a bark of laughter. The boy had come close to death, and yet was so nonchalant about it. To Naruto, it was absolutely absurd. Looking down, Naruto again looked at the dead body of the shinobi before turning his gaze instead to the woodcutter's axe, and he had picked up the metal axe. Head was still in perfect condition, but the wooden handle was covered in splinters and cracks. It looked like it could fall apart any second. I think I broke my axe, Naruto said bluntly, before turning his gaze to Victor, the boy merely looking at him with an amused expression for some reason. Well, we'll get you a new one. Hurry now and eat your dessert like a good boy, as I am in the market of a spare liver. For a spare liver. With Kushina sat silently in the bed in Naruto's room. Her eyes red from crying and her throat raw. The sound of a heavy rain hitting the now closed window so strong, and the strong wind made noise in the room, and the land of fires, rare storms having hit the village an hour ago. She felt sick and tired, both physically and emotionally. But no matter how hard she tried, Kushina couldn't sleep. Not while her son was missing. They had been unable to get permission from the daimyo of the land of rice, though not for a lack of trying. The problem was that unless they gave the reason for wanting to cross the border, they would not be allowed. But if word that Naruto had been got out, then there would be chaos. Even with his condition, Naruto was still the son of the Hokage, not to mention one of the very few Uzumaki left in existence. The moment he became known to the other villagers that he was taken, there would be a mad scramble to find him. So Minato had to be very careful with who knew. This unfortunately didn't include the daimyo of the country, allied with the Hidden Rock, who were the last people they wanted to find out. But now they had no leads, no trail, and no way to track him. Even now the storm washed away the few traces of his presence, and were still probably around. Even if they were allowed to cross the border, now the trail would have gone cold, leaving nothing for them to follow. The only hope now was as much as she hated it for the moment, Jiraiya. Unfortunately, they needed to wait for him to return to the Leaf Village. The old pervert, having left the triplets' birthday after Kushina had asked him to leave with her foot and a few well-thrown kunai. Minato had sent a messenger hawk with a letter calling him back to the Leaf Village the moment they returned after hitting the border, but he didn't go into any details in the message in case it was intercepted by hostiles. But it depended on where he was in the elemental nations at the moment. Just how long it would take him for the message to get to him, how long it would take him to get back. 2 weeks was a long time for someone like Jiraiya, and he could cover a lot of ground in that. Though Minato had used one of their codes to stress the urgency of the situation. So when he did get the message, the old pervert would no doubt come running as fast as he could to see what the problem was. Letting out a tired sigh, Kushina stood up and walked over Naruto's desk, her hand gentle over the top as another tear fell from the corner of her eye. However, she could start. She couldn't. She could start crying again. Something caught her. Before she could start crying again, something caught her eye. One of the drawers on the desk was partly open, just enough for her to see that it was empty. Wiping her tears from her face, Kushina pulled the drawer out completely and felt around the back to make sure, still finding nothing, before moving to a different drawer. All of them were empty. Feeling a hard lump start to form in her stomach, Kushina slowly walked over to the dresser, only on the other side of the room, her hands shaking. She grabbed the handle and pulled it open. Nothing. This wasn't right. Kidnappers wouldn't waste time packing. They didn't give the person they didn't give the person they were kidnapping time to grab a change of clothes or anything else. Eyes widening as a new thought occurred to her, Kushina quickly had to grab the dresser for the balance when she was hit by a dizzy spell. The edges of her vision were starting to go black as her head continued to spin with a new realization. But before she could even fully think of the words through in her mind, the world faded completely, and Kushina fell to the floor in a faint. Anyways, that is where I'm going to end off. I hope you'll enjoy it. Please stay safe. This was part 2 to what if Naruto was the Shinigami's, was the Jinchuriki of the Shinigami. And anyways, my ducklings, you're all dismissed. There is a bit more to this chapter that I will read next part. However, right now I need to do something urgently. It's very important for work. And my ducklings, you're dismissed, and peace.